Hey guys, welcome back. Sports with Mono and Mono. It's 8:26:19. Here with my esteemed partner Steve.
Hello, everybody, on this beautiful summer day on August 26th. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, we're hopefully done with the 95-degree weather, but beautiful out in New Jersey today. We're working a little remote today from our Oakland studio. So this is new for us. Hopefully, won't be the last time here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start our show off with, of course, acknowledging our sponsor, Coriano Trucking Incorporated, at Haverstraw, New York, and we thank them for their continued support.
Thank you, Coriano Trucking. Appreciate it.
So let's get the big story, I guess, and it was a big story, and we talked about this, and I got to be honest, I'm not shocked. Andrew Luck's retirement. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Well, I was sitting around a backyard on Saturday night and I actually got the breaking news from a 12-year-old. And I said to myself, it could be like an internet rumor, something along those lines. And then, because we were watching the Florida-Miami football game. So breaking news comes on, and lo and behold, and Adam Schefter of ESPN is kind of all over it. You kind of know it's serious.
He's got some credibility.
He does. He does. So then I saw it flash by. I was kind of stunned, like everybody else, the initial reaction. But 48 hours has passed for me. We've talked about Andrew Luck. That Andrew Luck is a very, very smart kid. He's not your average intelligence, and the fact that he's been beat up literally for the last 3-4 years, I'm not as shocked by this announcement because I think he's his own man. And listen, he's already made a lot of money, and this kid can really do anything he wants to do.
Oh, he could be a nuclear physicist. That's how smart this guy is.
That's exactly right, and that's my point. So I guess he just looked in the mirror. I guess his ankle is bothering him now.
Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week. I said there's something more than just an ankle injury and so forth. So I wasn't as blown away as I guess a lot of people may have been.
Well, listen, I mean, all Indianapolis Colts fans obviously were taken aback. I got to take some umbrage with some of their fans that they're actually booing this kid.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was stunned by this. I mean, okay, the average NFL fan, and I guess they pay for season tickets and they want to see this kid play, but he's a person. And, nobody can walk in his shoes and so forth, but to boo a guy that's given so much to your organization, to me, disgraceful. I can't say anything. I can't say I just can't say anything other than I thought it was disgraceful.
I agree. And then Andrew Luck has a somewhat of a mini press conference, if you will, to make the announcement. But you couldn't... He was as honest can get. He's like, listen, for the last 3 years, I've been at nothing but pain. What did he say? Injury, pain, rehab. Injury, pain, rehab.
Right.
And does he want to live his life in pain going forward? No. And his father, for those that don't know, is Oliver Luck. And we remember Oliver Luck was a quarterback for West Virginia, played in the NFL, not prominently in the NFL, played for the Houston Oilers.
He did, yeah.
He became an athletic director, and actually I think he is in charge of, I think it's the XFL or the other league he's involved with, and he's a very bright individual.
Smart guy too, yeah.
And again, Andrew Luck went to Stanford. I commend him for being honest about where he was mentally. And he flat out said, I'm not enjoying the game anymore. And, you can offer him as much money as you want. And we had talked about it a couple weeks ago, that if he was healthy and happy, he was going to get $40 million because he's basically coming up on the cycle of the highest paid quarterbacks.
Yep.
So Is it a surprising thing to be 29 and retire? Well, there was a guy named Jim Brown that was 29 and he retired.
He was pretty good, actually.
He was actually not bad. But listen, now it's over and the Colts got to move forward. I'm sure they'll look for a quarterback. Listen, they have Jacoby Brissett as their backup, serviceable backup.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know a lot about him. I saw a little press conference with him today. Handled himself with grace and dignity, and him and Andrew Luck were very tight, by the way.
So Jacoby Brissett's got a good resume, or a good lineage.
Yeah, he was 5-12, but this was 2 years ago.
He was starting quarterback, University of Florida, when they were still relevant. And he got drafted by the Patriots. He was Brady's backup for maybe 2 years, I believe. So, again, he learned the Patriot system. He's been in the Colts organization for a couple years. The other thing somebody threw out there was, well, do the Colts inquire about Eli Manning and his availability for 1 year?
I don't think he would even consider going to another team.
I
think if he wants his legacy to be secure in New York, you wear one uniform and that's it, and then your legacy is secure.
I agree. I'm kind of poo-pooing that idea when I heard it. I don't see him
learning a new system.
No, I just see him finishing his first year, or last year, excuse me. Actually, a buddy of mine sent me a text that I guess after the last Giants preseason game, all the media now is fawning over Daniel Jones. And he made a comment that, as they were getting dressed in the locker room, again, all the microphones and lights were on Jones. And guess who was standing by himself on the other side of the locker room putting on his duds to go home? Nobody talking to him. So, Eli Manning. So,
yeah.
I think the writing is on the wall. It's going to depend, obviously, on the Giants' start. If they're 1-4, if they're 2-5, you can bet the farm Jones is coming in at that point.
If they go 0-2, I think that's when they're going to pull the trigger.
I think it could be.
But the thing that drives me crazy about this, like I said, he came in with Rivers and Roethlisberger, and these guys are still getting tons of dough, and no one's even saying they're washed up and so forth. This guy is not washed up. I just, like I said, I think it just may be time for a new era in New York, and that's all. I'm a big fan of Eli's. He brought us 2 Super Bowls, and I don't care what anybody says. He brought us 2 Super Bowls.
Right. Were there any controversies with Eli Manning?
No.
Was he starting quarterback for the New York Football Giants and carried himself with nothing but dignity and grace?
Yep.
Yes. Did he have one of the roughest starts you and I have ever seen of a quarterback that's going to go to the Hall of Fame? We've talked about this. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but we remember how bad Eli Manning's transition to the NFL was. His first 2 years, we were actually ready to throw him under the bus and say, this kid just doesn't have the physical
No, but it was
tool.
very, very similar to when Bradshaw came into the league. He was the worst quarterback in the league for at least 2 years.
There's no question about it.
And then he won 4 Super Bowls. So you gotta give these guys time.
A little patience, I get that, but I just wanted to bring that up, because Eli, and that was when Tiki Barber was on the team, and Tiki Barber's mocking him out in public and amongst his teammates. So I got nothing but respect for Eli Manning. I hope he finishes the year as the starting quarterback of the Giants. I actually hope the Giants have a decent season. And let's face it, this is it, though. No way he comes back next year. Then they're going to give the keys to the kid. There's no question.
Right.
So.
But, it's getting back to Luck real quick. The way the Colts handled this, Irsay and who's it, Chris Ballard, who was the GM?
Yeah. Nothing
awesome.
but class.
They're paying this kid some walking away dough, and that was great. And, poo-poo to the fans that booed him, because that was uncalled for.
So the next question is Andrew Luck, a Hall of Fame quarterback?
I don't think he's got the tenure to get there.
I don't think so either.
We talked about this offline the other day about one of the few exceptions about, I think there was a minimum requirement of 7 or 8 years to get into the Hall of Fame, and Gale Sayers played 6.
Right.
and his last 2 seasons he only played 4 games.
Right.
And he got into the Hall of Fame because he was great. Great.
Yeah.
Are they going to consider Andrew Luck in that realm? Was he that dominant? He missed a lot of time the last couple seasons. So let's say he's got 4 or 5 solid years. 2018 comeback player of the year. I love the guy.
I love him too.
And good riddance. And look, all the question is, is he going to come back? I don't see him coming back.
I don't either.
I don't see him ever coming back because this is the decision he made, and he's, like you said, he's one smart guy, and he thought about this,
Right.
and and the consequences of it. But I'm happy for him, and I'm glad. Glad he made the decision and stood up to it and answered the questions. So good for him.
Right. So, yeah.
Before we move on to the NFL, so you're a Cowboys loyalist. They going to sign your guy in time for week 1 or week 2? What do you think?
Week 1.
Week 1?
Yeah.
That's next week.
Yeah.
They got to sign him a contract.
They will. They're working on it now.
They're typing the papers now.
Yeah, from what I hear, it's
All right.
It's like Gurley money, Bell money, something in between. Not as much as Gurley, which
Why not?
I know. That's the starting point where they're at. Be more than Le'Veon Bell. At the end of the day, they'll have to nudge him a little bit past Gurley. And we've talked about it. As soon as he gets the money.
Prescott gets his money too.
But I'm talking more on Elliott's character. I think this guy, he can't get out of his own way off the field. And I'm very concerned about guaranteeing all this upfront money for him over the next couple of years. But
it's the trend in the NFL.
it is.
I mean,
it's the way the business is done in the NFL. I mean, is this guy produce? He produces.
Absolutely.
But are the Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl? No.
No,
We're just not going to do it.
No,
so,
they're not.
But to answer your question, I'm confident he'll be signed week 1. Melvin Gordon, we talked about him. I don't foresee Melvin getting a contract anytime soon.
Or anywhere near the money he thinks he's going to get. I mean, he hasn't produced to any kind of level that he warrants that. So, yeah, we talked about that before.
Yep, I agree.
So,
The NFL will be kicking off, 2 weeks maybe or so now? So we're getting
the last week of preseason, so we'll make our selections and do our preview show next week on Monday.
And then there's obviously there'll be a lot of cuts and everything, and a lot of positioning for players to land elsewhere. So we'll keep an eye out on that for prominent cuts.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's stick with football for a minute because the NCAA is coming and it's coming soon. And the first marquee game was Miami, Florida. And I got to, here's my take on this. And you brought this up before. This Dan Mullen, solid football coach. And I like this kid Franks as the quarterback. And I think he listens and he knows exactly what this guy Mullen wants. And I think this whole Miami thing, what's his name? Taggart, is he still the coach?
Oh, for the Canes?
Canes.
No, they hired this guy Manny Diaz.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Taggart is Florida State.
Right, and we like him, and I think he's going to bring it to but they're not ready yet. But all of this monkey business on the sidelines after scoring touchdowns and the jewelry and the whole thing, I go, you got to win some games and get back to your prominence before you pull that stuff. And it was marquee game.
It was the opening of the college football season, prime time. So when you get Michael Irvin and the playmaker and all the other alum from the U milling about, getting in the kid's face, I understand what they're trying to do to get the swagger back to the U. However, to your point, you better start winning some games. You're unranked. And they had their chances to win this game. And Florida, comes back, beats them 24-20. And to your point, I think Dan Mullen is probably top 5, top 6 coach in the country. Yep. Did a great job at Mississippi State. For some of our fans that may not know, he was Dak Prescott's coach at Mississippi State. And he took that program, which is an historically 3-6, 3-7.
Because they play in the toughest conference
they play
in the country.
The toughest thing, right? So Dan Mullen, I think, and he made his bones at Florida. He was offensive coordinator under Urban Meyer. Makes sense that he goes back to Florida.
Yeah,
so I think Florida's back. I don't think they're in contention for the national championship, but I'm telling you, in 3 years, you're going to see Florida in the playoffs.
And I'll give Diaz some, listen, your first year, this is, you got to evaluate what you got, and then you bring your own guys in.
Yeah.
But they're playing it up like they're already back, and they're not back.
No, they're actually unranked, and now they're 0-1. So he's got his hands full, and he's got to recruit, and, who's to say that Miami won't be back on the scene?
Yep.
But it's absolutely at least a 2-3 year rebuild. There's no question.
But I want to also, when we're talking to these up-and-coming coaches, and here's a guy I really think is an up-and-coming coach, and this is Dino Babers at Syracuse.
Right.
I watched him coach. I mean, they played Clemson tough first week of the season, and they could have had the game. Just a couple of things went wrong, and they lost it at the end, but they were up the whole time. I really like this coach.
He's had a couple real good years so far.
He's really brought that. It's a basketball school.
Yeah.
They haven't been.
Syracuse is a great historic football school, number one. Obviously, basketball has been front and center for the past 30, 40 years. Dino Babers is a good coach. They hired him a couple years ago.
Yeah, I like him.
Syracuse had a good year last year. Like you said, they played Clemson tough. And for our North Jersey people, actually the starting quarterback coming into this year will be a kid from Don Bosco, Tommy DeVito, who we watched play for a couple years.
Several times.
St. Joe's Green Knights.
Yep.
So good luck to him.
Sure.
He's been waiting. I think he's probably a junior, would be my guess by now.
I actually think he's a sophomore.
He may have been redshirted.
He was probably redshirted.
But he's getting the keys to the engine. But watch out for Syracuse. I think Syracuse can be a top 15 program. I don't know about 15, top 20.
Yeah, I'm not putting them in the top 10, but I really like this.
But
Babers
they're trending upwards. So there's recruiting well. Babers is a good coach. So look for him not to really go anywhere, I would say, for another few years. And even up the road, let's not forget Army had a great year last year.
They did.
And I believe Army is primed to have another good year, and it's about time. It's been a long time waiting for the Black Knights to get out of the doldrums. So, so for our Northeast football crowd, Army and Syracuse are becoming relevant again. And that's one of the best venues to go to as well. Anybody who wants to go check out an Army football game at West Point, you get there early in the morning, you tour the campus.
Spectacular.
It's spectacular. It really is on a fall afternoon.
It's a beautiful stadium. It's easily accessible, from a Northeast perspective. And you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because Army really did have a great year last year. Great year.
And then we'll see what the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers brings to the table this year in the Big Ten again, after an absolute abysmal year last year.
And who were they opening up against? I think it was like New Mexico or
I'm sure
something.
they'll have a patsy early on before they play the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But this is a big year for Ash. This is probably year 3 at least, maybe 4. But I'm going to say
3.
At minimum 3.
3.
And they got some quarterback problems. They don't have a real go-to quarterback, so they got to feel out a lot of players still. And we'll see what happens with them. And you and I, actually, we're going to go with a couple of our loyal listeners. We got invited, so we're going to hit up a Rutgers game this fall. And we'll see them in action in person.
Yeah.
But they need to be relevant. I mean, they've
been trying for years.
But ever since Shiano left, they've been bad again.
And this is a meat market in the Northeast with the St. Joe's and the Bergens and the Boscos, and they're trying to keep these guys home. But, until they start winning, there's some guys that are just going to say, I want more exposure. I want to play. I think they're a little overmatched right now in the Big 12. I really do.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think it's going to reflect well on the program if they go 3-8 or 4-7 or whatever it is again.
But they got to fill the cupboard up, and they made a hire of Nunzio Campanelli from Bergen Catholic. This is going to be Nunzio's second year there. So if anybody is tuned into the North Jersey scene, it's Nunzio Campanelli.
Yeah.
And he is the perfect fit to
bring those kids
to try and keep as many of guys from Joe's, Bosco, Bergen, and DePaul, and all the big boys.
It's a great hire, no question. And I ultimately think they brought him in not only for the talent, but he's going to be the head coach there.
Well, I'm a big Nunzio fan. Actually, Nunzio lives in town with me, and I get to see him often. I coach his son in football.
Yep.
And a great guy and a great coach. So hopefully Nuns can get some kids down there that's going to make Rutgers relevant again.
And listen, before we move on from football, right? We just talked about it, and Steve and I make no bones about it. We're St. Joe's guys, but we appreciate what Nunzio did at Bergen and the Boscos, and I said, this is premier talent in high school football. And St. Joe's opens this week, I think Friday or Saturday, out in California. They're playing
the 30th. So definitely this upcoming weekend.
Yep, and they got no picnic coming back. They got a week off, and they're playing this team. And one of our loyal listeners, Kenny Backer, brought it up. He watched St. Francis of Maryland.
Right, they were on ESPN this week, I think.
Right, and he said. Like the whole defensive line is like guys going to Alabama, Clemson,
right.
LSU,
Ohio State, and on and on. Yeah.
They're the number 3 ranked team in the country, so this is going to be a big test for the St. Joe's team, but for sure. But it's just great. I think high school football and certainly in our area in the Northeast is great, and the fact that they're playing these teams from across the country, which. Look, they're loaded in California, Maryland, D.C., Texas, Florida. This is real big time.
It is, because these kids are like college kids. I mean, these high school kids, they're working out 365. The days of 3-sport athletes is pretty much come and gone because of the fact that kids really need to concentrate. So typically you see a two-sport star, whether it's a football, lacrosse guy or a baseball, basketball guy, whatever the case may be. But to your point, high school football in North Jersey is
just as comparable as it is in Texas, California, and
Florida.
Exactly,
that's the point. It's fantastic, and a lot of good kids go up throughout the country getting recruited. So we're looking forward to that, no doubt.
All right, so we're going to move on real quick because I certainly want to touch base on the PGA, but of course this segment sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Again, loyal supporter of the show. How about Rory? He took it. I think I picked Brooks this time. I know you've been riding on Brooks the whole time, and just wasn't his day. And maybe this is the turning point for McIlroy.
Well, did we or did we not talk about McIlroy a couple weeks ago? And what was our subject? Is he going to win another major? We were looking back, right, about, he hasn't really won a major in 4 years or so. I think 15, right?
And he wants a Masters.
But I tell you what, let's tip our hat to Rory McIlroy. He won that tournament flat out. He looked good, shot well, played well.
And these guys, Schauffele and Koepka, they were on his heels the whole time, and then he just pulled away, And
listen, Xander had a great showing. He actually had a hole-in-one on that 9th hole.
240 yard. I mean,
that's awesome, man.
That's unbelievable.
Right. And listen, as steely as Brooks is, he wobbled yesterday. He hit one into the trees. He double bogeys. He slips, and before he knew it, he's 3-4 shots, off McIlroy.
And then it was out of reach.
But you got to tip your hat to McIlroy. $15 million.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable payday
right?
for that. I mean, but he's only the second 2-time FedEx Cup winner other than Tiger Woods.
Right.
But I think that I'm happy for him. Like I said, I always thought he was so close, and not diminishing his past. He's got a couple of majors,
Yeah.
but he's got so much talent. He deserves to have more of these, and I know he wants that green jacket in the worst way, right?
So this is good for his resume, obviously.
You bet.
But Koepka is going to be the player of the year. There's no question. PGA champ.
No question.
World Golf title he had, what was that, a month ago?
Yep.
I think he has 3 wins for the year.
Oh, clearly the player of the year.
Right.
That's not even a question.
But McIlroy's back. And McIlroy looks like he's in good shape.
He's always been in good shape.
Yeah, he was a little pudgy for a little while there until he started working out. So let's tip our hat to McIlroy.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much going to be a wrap on the golf season for the most part until, a couple tournaments in the fall of some whatever.
I always consider the start of it. I think it's the Sony Open or something out in Hawaii or something. That's usually
January. Though.
Right. It's usually January or something like that. That's the start of it. But it was a great year. It was a great year for the PGA, and we both agreed. It was very good to see McIlroy finally step up and take it to somebody on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So congratulations, Rory, and
Yep.
I think that'll be it on golf for a while now.
We will.
For the show.
Yep.
Right.
So let's move on to baseball. Right? Major League Baseball's coming down the home stretch, right? Last month coming up. And like I said, the Yankees don't show any signs of slowing down. And you mentioned before, this kid Herman, he's gotten roughed up his past couple of times, but he's 17-3. But he's not going to win his Cy Young. That's got to go to Justin Verlander, right? No matter what.
Herman absolutely will not win the Cy Young. But to have this kid in the rotation, who's a Yankee product, and after, I don't know, he was like 6-0, 7-1. Okay, is this all smoke and mirrors? And here we are, fast forward a few months down the road.
17
Kid is 17-3, but when you watch him pitch, is he overpowering? No. Can he pitch? Most certainly can. So he's got great off-speed stuff. He can handle himself on the mound. I thought this past weekend series, Yankees-Dodgers, they haven't played, I think, in about 3 years or so. Now, these silly uniforms that they were wearing.
Well, do you know what that was even about?
Well, it's Players Weekend, Jim. You see, Major League Baseball is allowing the players to have a little fun and kind of, make it about themselves. So when you turned on Friday evening, Yankees are wearing these silly blue or black, all black things.
Well, they were better than the white ones.
The white ones were terrible.
I mean, that looked like,
Right, it looks
Star
like
Wars.
something George Costanza on Seinfeld came up with, telling Buck Showalter, right? So, my point is, Yankees-Dodgers, good series, evenly matched. Yankees' record now is 85-47. They're tied with Houston for the American League best record. Dodgers, I think, are a game better. So, but the Dodgers, like we've talked about, are running away with it.
Yep.
So,
and
the Yankees are on the West Coast, is my point. So they got off to a tough start in Oakland, getting swept.
Indeed.
And then they lose. But they won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers to stay. When you go on a 9-game West Coast trip, you need a few victories.
But I think it's a little premature to say this is a World Series preview with the Dodgers, because the Houston Astros is still the team to beat as far as I'm concerned. I think the Yankees still have some question marks in the pitching department. I mean, they're going to hit if Judge starts getting hot, which
I
it
was
looks
just going
like
to
he
bring
is.
that up. It looks like he is. He hit a couple nice home runs.
Oh, because he's been in this major league slump since the All-Star
That's
break.
baseball, but that's baseball.
Right.
You got to fight through those things. So hopefully his slump is over and he can heat back up.
Right, and it's all dependent on, listen, if Severino comes back and Betances comes back and so forth, because, they may be overusing.
Everybody.
Yeah, who's the relief pitcher? The closer.
Chapman?
Yeah, Chapman.
Right.
right? I mean, he can only go so much because he's only a 1 or 2 inning guy.
And we talked about it. They're waiting for Severino and Betances, and hopefully they'll be back in 3 weeks. I'd like to see them on the mound maybe a week after Labor Day or so they can get some work in.
But you never know. This isn't the time to start getting work in. This is the playoffs, and Houston's primed and ready to go.
I agree.
I think the National League, I think the Dodgers will go to the World Series. I don't see a lot of competition. The Braves are young and up and coming. They're a good team.
Right.
But I think the Dodgers are absolutely loaded in the National League.
Cardinals and Cubs in the Central, they're battling it out. Cubs aren't as formidable as they were when they won the World Series. They still have good talent, don't get me wrong.
Agreed.
But I got to think the Dodgers are odds-on favorite to make the World Series. And I agree with Houston. I've said it before. They are a tough out.
In the Central, that's a dog race, right, with Cleveland and Minnesota, but they seem to be coming back to earth a little bit.
Minnesota just checked is up 3 games now on Cleveland.
Yep.
So, like we talked about, it'll be a race in the wild card. I think Cleveland will probably get at least one of them.
Yep.
And then I would say I think Oakland is sniffing that, and Tampa too is right there too. So I got to think 2 out of the 3 spots would come from those teams. As of now, then we'll see what happens, how it shakes out. So our boy Peter Alonso for the New York Mets, we talked about. He is now the New York Mets all-time single-season leading home run hitter, tied with Todd Hundley and Carlos Beltran.
I would have given you 50 cents if you would have guessed that Todd Hundley owned the Mets, and it wasn't Strawberry or somebody like that.
I think I mentioned something like when somebody said that to me, I completely forgot about Todd Hundley like anybody else would.
Well, that was kind of the Brady Anderson year when the bats were corked and the balls were Super Bowls.
Absolutely. But Alonso obviously will break this record if he doesn't get hurt or get into a car accident on the way to Shea Stadium in the next.
And I guess he's the National League Rookie of the Year, right?
I would bet the farm on that.
Yeah.
Right?
He'll end up with 47 home runs.
I'm going to say he's going to hit 50. He needs 9 more.
9 more in 4 weeks?
I'll peg him for 50.
All right.
I said that a few weeks ago, so I'm going to stay firm on that. I think he can hit 50. Yeah. But the Mets, like we talked about last week, they have a rough stretch these next 3 teams, but they just played the Braves and the Indians. They held their own against the Indians.
Got swept by the Braves.
Braves swept them.
Yeah.
So I think they dropped a game or 2 at least on that.
But the wild card is still wide open. You know
is.
What? They could back into the playoffs here because I don't see Philadelphia making any kind of a run.
I don't either. I think they could. I think they're in contention. However, I'll stay firm as well as I said. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they'll come back to earth and but again, they had a great stretch there, like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Well, they need to make the playoffs, otherwise Callaway has to be gone. I mean, if they make it, he saves his job. If they don't, he's gone.
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
All right. So let's just move on real quick. For our next segment is sponsored by De Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York, and like I said, they've been our latest and very loyal sponsor and proprietary. What's the word? Go to their place. It's great.
Carmela is the proprietor of De Filippi's Bakery. Once again, if you're in the Catskills, it's the go-to place for any sweets that you need.
Yep. So I just wanted to kind of shout out, we were talking a little bit about, that's a kind of a wrap on the golf season. I wanted to touch base because the big race, and I can kind of consider it the 5th, the 4th of the Triple Crown thing kind of thing, Travers, up in Saratoga, which, we've talked about before, is just, a darling place to go.
Right.
And Code of Honor, who had a good showing, came in 3rd in the Kentucky Derby, came in 2nd after the disqualification of maximum security,
Right.
and he won it, and it was a good race. And my horse, which I actually picked twice, right, in the Belmont and in the Derby and the Belmont.
Does it begin with a T?
Yeah, it was Tacitus.
Yes.
You know.
How did your boy Tacitus do?
I think he finished in the money, but he didn't win the race. So Code of Honor won it, and Travers I think is great. And
Did you place a wager there, partner?
I did not.
No.
I did not make it up for the Travers this year.
Okay.
But everything about Saratoga, and they host the Travers and the Whitney and the Jim Dandy, and the best announcer calling a race in the business, Larry Colmus, did another great job calling that race, and it was great.
What's the race season there? 6 weeks? When do they open? Like June to Labor Day, or is it shut down in August?
No, it's June. I think this year they opened up. They may have opened up a week early. I think they might have added a 7th week, but it's normally 6 weeks.
Okay.
And it runs until Labor Day.
Right.
And I think they closed on Mondays. But it's usually a six week meet up there, and you get all the best jockeys and all the great horses. We talked about this. If you want to go to a great college venue football game, go to Army. You want to go to see some quality horse racing, you go to Saratoga.
Right.
And it was great. The Breeders' Cup is coming, but that's kind of, that's not for another few weeks and so forth.
Yeah,
but
and that's supposed to be at our darling Santa Anita track, if I'm not mistaken. So
this year, I think
I'm curious
it is.
to see if it will remain at Santa Anita.
We've talked about this, the whole Santa Anita thing, and I don't get it.
Well, I mean, the last count we had was up to about 25 horses, and fortunately, I don't think we've heard a
fraction of it, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, but we haven't heard any recent tragedies.
And we hung it on Santa Anita as like it was the only place this was happening.
It is
And we
not
did a
the
little
only
homework,
place.
and it's not the only place.
And that's something we'll talk about going forward. We're going to do a little bit more. We're going to look into this more, but it's the ugly, ugly side of horse racing that I think needs to be exposed further.
But we'll certainly bring up the Breeders' Cup when we get to the week of it. It's a few weeks out.
Sure. Okay.
So listen, I want to give our shout out, right? And I think ESPN or somebody ripped us off. I think we came up with shout outs, and now somebody else is using it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
I saw that on ESPN a couple
We'll
weeks
have to
ago.
talk to the show attorney and
A little copyright
put a
infringement.
little stop order gags going on here.
But here's my shout out, and it's to the little leaguers from Louisiana.
You better believe it.
They lost their first game, and then they rolled off 6 straight wins and beat Curacao and won it. It was awesome.
They beat New Jersey along the way, Elizabeth, New Jersey. So we can also give a shout out to them, being that we're New Jerseyites. So Elizabeth, New Jersey had a good showing. They made it to Williamsport.
They did.
Louisiana. Now there's a kid on Louisiana.
The pitcher.
Well,
Egan Prather, his name was.
Well, that's one, but there's one kid who just set the record for the amount of hits in a Little League World Series. The kid had 17.
He did.
And that's a record. I think it was 15, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
So congratulations to that young kid out of the Bayou.
Yep.
But anytime we get a champ from the United States in the Little League World Series, we're rooting for him. So.
Because those guys from Japan and all those other those other countries are phenomenal.
Typically Japan, Mexico, the Koreas, that type of thing.
We got to put Curacao in there now.
No, Curacao. But also Hawaii had a good showing. Hawaii won it all last year. They came back. I did a little research. I think last year's team was from Honolulu. This year's team was based out of Maui. And, let's face it, I mean, how many kids are you pulling from there to have a really solid Little League team? But Hawaii made it to the United States final, and Louisiana beat them. I think it was 9-5, but Louisiana, it was close. It was nothing, about 3-4 innings in, and then Louisiana pulled away. and they just dominated Curacao yesterday. So yeah, that's our shout out. Congratulations.
No question. I watched this kid Prather pitch a couple of games, and boy, he was unhittable.
Oh yeah,
unhittable.
It's such a great venue. I've never been.
I have not either.
That's actually something I think I would like to do, and go spend a Saturday sitting in the outfield there with a blanket and watch that.
But the popularity of it now, and the fact that the United States has kind of embraced this as, this is a must-watch kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
And they actually have now the Major League Baseball has a game there, I think.
They did.
Right?
They had, I think the Cubs played there with somebody else.
Yeah, but it's a relatively new thing. I think maybe 1 or 2 games have been played, but I can see that going forward.
A Little League Classic or something, I think it's called.
I just saw the Orioles and Red Sox are on the docket for next year.
Yeah, it's going to be an annual thing.
That makes perfect sense. So why wouldn't you do that and have your Boston Oriole fans come and
look, it draws attention to the Little Leaguers, and it's great for everybody. It's awesome.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's our shout out.
You bet.
And if anybody has any comments, any questions, please shoot us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com.
And if you like the show, give us a like, be a follower. We'd love to know who you are, and we hope we can give you some more information on stuff maybe you knew, some that you didn't know, or opinions. That's what Sports Talk is all about.
And find us on SoundCloud, okay? So
and YouTube.
But like Jim said, all you gotta do is go to SoundCloud, look for Sports with Mono, and hit follow. And then this way, once we post our show, you get notified by SoundCloud. Hey, that Sports with Mono just posted a new show.
And YouTube notifies you also.
Correct.
It's great.
Yep.
But thanks very much. This was a good show, and lots to cover. And listen, we're in the midst of baseball and college football and high school football and everything football.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
For sports fans, for sure.
You better believe it. We love this time of year.
But thanks for listening. We love your support, and we'll catch up to you guys next week.
You got it. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks
for
guys.
listening.
Bye.